Jemfua and Abiba had been inseparable since childhood. Growing up in Ananse, they had shared everything: dreams, struggles, and even hunger. When life in the village became unbearable, Jemfua made a promise. "I will go to Accra and hustle. When I make it, I will come back for you." True to her word, Jemfua worked tirelessly, selling meat pies and sachet water in the hot streets of Accra. Then fate smiled on her. She met Sasu, a wealthy businessman who fell in love with her and transformed her life overnight. Soon, Jemfua owned a luxurious boutique in Airport Hills, and just like she had promised, she brought Abiba to Accra to share in her success. She gave her a place to stay, a job, and treated her like a sister. But jealousy is like fire. It spreads fast and destroys everything. Abiba, seeing Jemfua's happiness, began to feel resentment instead of gratitude. She started whispering doubts into Jemfua's mind, then tried to seduce Sasu herself. When that failed, she plotted a dangerous scheme, one that could shatter Jemfua's life forever. Now, the ultimate trap has been set. Jemfua unknowingly delivered a stolen item to a stranger, while Abiba recorded everything. Will Sasu believe the lie? Will Jemfua lose everything? 2 weeks had passed since Abiba set her trap, and life in the house continued as normal, at least on the surface. One bright Saturday morning, Sasu stood in front of his mirror, adjusting the collar of his crisp white shirt. He was preparing to attend his best friend's wedding, and he wanted to look perfect. Reaching for his wrist, he suddenly remembered his gold watch. He turned toward the bedside drawer where he always kept it, but it wasn't there. Frowning, Sasu searched the drawer again, then the wardrobe, the bathroom, even under the bed. He checked his jackets, his travel bag. Nothing. His frustration grew. He stormed into the hallway and called out, "Jemfua, have you seen my gold watch?" Jemfua, busy in the kitchen, turned around, confused. "Your watch? No, I haven't. Did you check your drawer?" Sasu's face tightened. "Of course I did. It's not there. Are you sure you haven't seen it anywhere?" Jemfua wiped her hands on a cloth and walked over. "No, my love, I haven't seen it. Maybe you left it somewhere." But Sasu wasn't convinced. The watch was always in the same place. It couldn't just disappear. His frustration deepened, and though he didn't want to believe it, doubt started creeping in. Jemfua noticed the change in his mood and felt uneasy. Why was he looking at her like that? "Sasu, you don't think I—" She stopped, shaking her head. "I would never take your watch. You know that." Sasu sighed, running a hand over his head. "I don't know what to think, Jemfua. That watch is gone, and I need it for today." Jemfua felt hurt. Did Sasu really suspect her? The thought made her chest tighten. For the next 3 days, Sasu remained distant. He was still upset about the missing watch, and Jemfua could feel the tension growing between them. Then, on the 3rd day, Abiba saw her chance. She approached Sasu carefully, her expression serious, pretending to be hesitant. "Sasu, there's something I need to tell you, but I don't want to hurt you." Sasu sighed, irritated. "Abiba, what is it now?" She bit her lip, then spoke in a soft, pitiful tone. "It's about Jemfua. She took your watch." Sasu's eyes narrowed immediately. "What? That's impossible." Abiba nodded slowly, her voice dripping with false sadness. "I didn't want to believe it either, but I saw it with my own eyes. Jemfua has a man, Sasu. Every time you go out, she brings him in." Sasu's heart pounded, but he clenched his fists. "Abiba, stop it. I told you before, I don't believe these lies. Jemfua loves me." But Abiba was prepared for this reaction. She let out a deep sigh and shook her head. Once a prostitute, always a prostitute. Sasu, no matter how you pamper her, she will never change. That sentence sent a sharp wave of anger through Sasu's body. Don't you ever speak about Gemfua like that again, he growled, his jaw tightening. But Abiba wasn't done yet. I wish I were lying, Sasu, but if you need proof, I have it. Sasu's heart skipped a beat. Proof? Abiba pulled out her phone. I recorded something a few days ago. Watch this. She pressed play and handed the phone to Sasu. On the screen, there was Gemfua, standing outside, handing a parcel to a man. The recording wasn't clear enough to show what was inside, but the image was enough to shake Sasu. The way Gemfua handed the parcel, the way she spoke to the man, the whole thing looked suspicious. Sasu felt a chill run down his spine. He never expected to see something like this. His hands gripped the phone tightly, his heart racing. Could it be true? Had Gemfua been lying to him all along? There is this Ananse saying, it is a person who will place your hand in the fire, and the same person who will pull you out. Gemfua sat in the living room, confused and anxious. Sasu had called her in an angry tone, demanding that she come downstairs immediately. Something was wrong. As soon as she stepped into the room, Sasu's piercing eyes met hers, filled with disappointment and rage. Gemfua, where is my gold watch? Sasu asked, his voice firm. Gemfua blinked, shocked. Your watch? I told you before I haven't seen it, Sasu. His face tightened, his jaw clenching. Don't lie to me, Gemfua. Where is it? And who is the man you've been seeing behind my back? Gemfua gasped. Sasu, what are you talking about? I have never stolen from you, and I have never cheated on you. Sasu let out a bitter laugh and reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and handed it to her. Explain this then, he barked. Gemfua took the phone hesitantly and pressed play. On the screen, she saw herself handing over a parcel to a man. The angle, the setup, it all looked so damning. Her breath caught in her throat. She instantly realized what had happened. She turned her gaze to Abiba, who stood in the corner, arms folded, face blank. No, this can't be happening, Gemfua whispered. She lifted her tear-filled eyes to Sasu. Sasu, this is not what you think. I was just doing Abiba a favor. She told me it was a birthday gift for her boyfriend. Sasu scoffed. A birthday gift? Then why did Abiba tell me you have another man, that you stole my gold watch to give him? Gemfua's hands shook as she looked desperately at Abiba. Abiba, please, tell Sasu the truth. You know I was only helping you. She grabbed Abiba's hand and pleaded. Abiba, didn't you tell me to give this to your boyfriend outside? Didn't you? Abiba smirked. Then, in front of Sasu, she shook her head and sighed. Gemfua, how many times have I told you to stay away from other men? You are in a relationship, yet you never listen. And now, look at what you've caused. Gemfua felt her knees weaken. Her best friend, her sister, was lying in front of her face. Her voice trembled. Abiba, why are you doing this to me? I brought you to Accra. I gave you everything. This is how you repay me. Abiba let out a small chuckle and took a step back. Life isn't fair, Gemfua. You should have been more careful. Your friend is the one who knows where to stab you. Gemfua fell to the floor, tears streaming down her face. Sasu, please, don't listen to her. You know me. I would never steal from you, never betray you. But Sasu's mind was made up. He turned away, his voice cold. Pack your things and leave, Jemfua. Jemfua sobbed, grabbing his hand. Sasu, please don't do this. Sasu pulled away. I trusted you, and you betrayed me. Jemfua shook her head violently. No, Sasu, I swear I didn't. Please don't let her lies destroy us. But Sasu wasn't listening anymore. He walked to the front door, held it open, and looked at her one last time. Leave. Jemfua cried harder, but she knew she had lost. Her best friend had turned into her worst enemy, and now she had lost everything. Abiba stood by the doorway, watching the scene with satisfaction. Sasu turned to her. You too, Abiba. Get out. Abiba's smile faded. What? Sasu folded his arms. I don't trust you either. I don't want you in my house. Abiba opened her mouth to argue, but Sasu's glare silenced her. So, Abiba and Jemfua both left the house together, but Jemfua's heart was shattered into pieces. As Jemfua walked away from the mansion, broken and betrayed, one thought kept her strong. Sasu may have kicked her out, but one thing he couldn't take from her: the boutique. It was registered in her name. It was legally hers. She had lost a man, lost a friend, lost her home. But she hadn't lost everything. There is an Akan saying, if you betray a friend for money, be prepared. Karma will come for you. Betrayal invites consequences. Abiba returned to Ananse, her mind filled with thoughts of revenge and ambition. She had lost her place in Sasu's mansion, but she refused to accept defeat. She knew she needed a stronger force to help her, something beyond mere tricks and lies. One evening, as she sat outside her mother's house, an idea struck her. Spiritual help. If deception alone couldn't bring Sasu back to her, then she would use supernatural power to win his heart. A month later, she visited a powerful Malam in the outskirts of Ananse. The old man sat cross-legged in his dimly lit hut, his eyes sharp with knowledge. Abiba bowed respectfully and explained her request. I want Sasu to love me, to give me everything I desire, and to forget Jemfua completely. The Malam let out a deep laugh and shook his head. This is a small matter, he said. He reached into a wooden box and pulled out a small bottle of oil, thick and dark. Handing it to Abiba, he instructed her carefully. Apply this on your face before you see him. The moment you enter his house, mention his name with confidence. From there, the magic will take over. Abiba's heart pounded with excitement. She had seen people transformed by juju before. Now it was her turn. 2 days later, she prepared herself. She bathed in scented water, wore a beautiful red dress, and rubbed the oil onto her face. Looking into the mirror, she felt powerful. She traveled to Accra, her heart racing as she reached Sasu's house. The moment she stepped into the compound and saw him standing at the doorway, she whispered his name, Sasu. In an instant, something shifted in Sasu's eyes. His expression softened, his lips curved into a smile, and without hesitation, he welcomed her inside. Abiba wasted no time. She leaned in close, her voice smooth like honey, her body language tempting. Sasu, usually so guarded, felt his resolve crumble. There was an unexplainable pull toward her, as if his mind had surrendered. Before he could think, before he could question anything, he found himself wrapped in Abiba's arms. What began as a visit quickly turned into a passionate night. When morning came, Sasu handed Abiba a large sum of money, a gesture he did not fully understand himself. His mind felt hazy, As if under a spell, Abiba held the money in her hands, her heart swelling with triumph. If just one night could bring me this much, she thought, then imagine what I will gain if I stay with him forever. Her plan had worked, and she was just getting started. Abiba had completely won Sasu over, convincing him that it made no sense for her to be moving back and forth. She should stay with him permanently. Sasu, still under the influence of her charm and the spiritual manipulation, agreed without hesitation. Life in Sasu's mansion was everything Abiba had ever dreamed of: luxury, money, and power. But deep inside, envy still burned within her. No matter how much she had gained, one thing continued to haunt her. Jemfua still had her boutique. One afternoon, Abiba stormed into Jemfua's boutique, her face twisted with anger. The moment she stepped in, the workers stopped what they were doing, sensing tension in the air. Jemfua, who had been checking inventory, turned around and froze at the sight of her former best friend. Abiba's voice boomed through the shop. "Leave this place. Pack your things and go, because Sasu belongs to me now." Jemfua was stunned. She stared at Abiba, finally understanding the full extent of her betrayal. She sighed deeply, shaking her head in disbelief. "So you framed and sabotaged my relationship out of envy?" Abiba scoffed. "Call it whatever you want, but Sasu is mine now. This boutique must go too." Jemfua folded her arms, her voice steady but filled with pain. "You took my man, but you cannot take what is rightfully mine. This boutique is registered in my name. Nobody can take it from me, not even Sasu." Abiba felt rage rising in her chest. How could Jemfua still stand tall after everything? "We'll see about that," she spat before storming out. Later that evening, Abiba ran to Sasu, her eyes filled with fake concern. "My love, Jemfua still owns that boutique. Why should she have anything when you have given me everything?" Sasu sighed, rubbing his temple. "Abiba, I have no power over that boutique. It was registered in her name long ago. There's nothing I can do." Abiba clenched her fists, frustration boiling inside her. But before she could argue, Sasu smiled and cupped her face. "Don't worry, my queen. I will build you a boutique, one that is 2 times bigger than Jemfua's own." Abiba's face lit up. The thought of having a bigger boutique, more success and more wealth, sent waves of excitement through her. But still, deep inside, envy refused to leave her heart. Jemfua still had something she didn't. Sasu was wealthy beyond measure, and Abiba had always dreamed of having access to his riches, even if it meant taking it for herself. She knew Sasu would give her anything she asked for, but why wait for him to give it when she could take it herself? The thought lingered in her mind, a dangerous temptation she was willing to act on. That evening, Abiba moved silently through Sasu's mansion, her eyes darting around like a thief in the night. Her greed had grown uncontrollable. She had access to Sasu's wealth, but it wasn't enough. She wanted more. She wanted everything. As she searched through the rooms, opening drawers and checking behind cupboards, she became frustrated. She had expected to find huge sums of money carelessly placed somewhere, but Sasu was more careful than she thought. Then she noticed it, a door at the end of the hallway. She walked over and tried the keys she had taken, but none of them worked. Her heart pounded. Why is this door locked? She wondered. That night at dinner, she casually brought it up, pretending to be innocent. "Sasu, I wanted to clean all the rooms today, but one of them was locked. I couldn't open it." Sasu immediately stiffened, his entire demeanor changing. His usually calm face turned cold and serious. "Abiba, that door is not to be opened. Ever." Abiba forced a laugh. "Why? What's in there?" Sasu narrowed his eyes. "It contains my most precious things. It is not for anyone to see." Abiba smiled, placing her hand on his. "My love, don't you trust me?" Sasu pulled his hand away and stood up abruptly. "I said it is not to be opened. Let this be the last time you ask me about it." His tone was final, almost threatening. But Abiba's curiosity burned inside her. If that room held his most precious things, then surely it held something valuable, something worth taking. That night, as Sasu lay asleep, Abiba stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. What is inside that room? Money? Gold? Documents? One thing was certain: she had to find out. A week later, Abiba finally got her chance. Sasu had left for an important business trip, and she was alone in the house. Standing before the locked door, she took a deep breath. She tried the keys again. Nothing. Frustrated, she grabbed a hammer from the storeroom. "If I can't unlock it, I will break it down." She raised the hammer and smashed it against the lock. Bang! The first hit barely did anything. Bang! Bang! With one final heavy strike, the lock snapped open. The door creaked, and a rush of cold air hit her face. The room was pitch black. Her hands trembling, she reached for the switch and turned on the light. What she saw made her blood freeze. In the center of the room lay a massive python, its dark, scaly body coiled around a pile of money. Dollars, Ghana cedis, and gold bars. Behind it, spiritual carvings, eerie statues, and blood-red candles flickered dimly. Before Abiba could react, a terrifying voice echoed through the room. "Who dares disturb this sacred place?" The voice shook the walls, rattling her bones. Abiba's breath hitched. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor, her entire body trembling with terror. The python raised its massive head, its black eyes locking onto hers. A cold, invisible force pressed down on her chest, choking the breath from her lungs. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Abiba's vision blurred, her world spinning into darkness. As Abiba lay motionless on the cold floor of the dark room, the giant python slithered closer, its forked tongue flicking against her trembling skin. The creature's weighty presence felt like death itself, wrapping around her in slow, deliberate movements. The python coiled tighter, licking her skin, leaving a chilling sensation that sent her soul into a spiral of madness. Then everything went black. An hour later, Abiba's eyes flew open, but she was no longer the same. Her lips curled into an eerie smile, and then she started laughing hysterically, a laughter that carried no joy, only insanity. She stumbled out of the mansion, her dress torn and hanging loosely, her hair wild and unkempt. As she reached the streets of Accra, people stopped and stared. She was half naked, laughing and talking to herself, her hands waving in the air as if chasing invisible demons. The once beautiful and ambitious Abiba had been reduced to a madwoman roaming the streets. People whispered, "Isn't that the woman who was always with that rich man? Hey, she has gone mad! What happened to her?" But no one knew the truth. No one knew that Abiba had stepped into a forbidden world, that she had discovered Sasu's terrifying secret. His wealth was built on blood money, that she had tried to steal from the wrong place. And now, nobody could heal her madness. Her jealousy and greed had led her to this moment, and that was where her envy got her. While Abiba roamed the streets, lost in her insanity, Jemfua thrived. She went ahead with her boutique, expanding it into one of the biggest in Accra. Her hard work and resilience paid off, and 5 years later, she built her own house and settled into a happy marriage. She had overcome betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, and she had come out stronger. But fate had one last painful reminder for her. One day, as Jemfua drove through Accra, heading to a business meeting, she stopped at a red light. And then her heart dropped. On the sidewalk, a woman with torn clothes, unkempt hair and bare feet staggered forward, laughing, muttering, completely unaware of the world. It was Abiba. Jemfua couldn't believe her eyes. The same woman who had once been her best friend. The same woman who had betrayed her, stolen her happiness, and tried to destroy her life. The same woman who had chosen greed over friendship. And now she was a shadow of her former self. Tears welled up in Jemfua's eyes. She didn't know what had happened to Abiba after she left Sasu's house, but seeing her in that state broke something inside her. She wanted to look away. She wanted to forget everything, but she couldn't. Because deep down, no matter what had happened, Abiba had once been her friend, and now her fate was a lesson written in pain. Moral of the story. Dear viewers, never bring your friend to stay with you and your partner. Some friends will ruin your relationship. Some friends will destroy your marriage. Some friends will bring curses instead of blessings. Many people have lost their jobs, homes, and even their lives trying to help friends who never appreciated their love and kindness. Be careful, because only your friend knows your secrets. And only your friend can betray you in a way that destroys you completely. The person you trust today might be the one to ruin you tomorrow. But remember this: sometimes when your enemies try to break you, they are only pushing you toward your destiny. Their plot will backfire. Their poison will turn into your antidote. Their trapdoors will become your success doors. May we be redeemed from job comforters, those who pretend to comfort us, but deep down wish to see us fall. This is a Khan saying, "A bad person is like a tail. No matter how much it moves, it can never do real work." If you love this story, subscribe to Ananse Web of Tales for more powerful lessons and storytelling. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments.